Ever played a game that felt like, I don't know, it was winking at all those classic RPG tropes, but then at the same time kind of making you blush a little?
Yeah, I get you.
That's Rance 01, the quest for Hikari for ya. And you guys have sent over a ton of stuff, maps, character bios, even some background on the creator himself. It's amazing. So we're going to unpack all of this and see why this remake, and get this, it's a remake of a 1989 game, still has people talking today.
1989. Wow, that's like the year the Berlin Wall came down. Gaming was a whole different beast back then.
Yeah.
But this game, with its RPG and adventure game mix, really seemed to hit a nerve and spawned a whole series. It's pretty incredible.
Okay, so we've got this game, and it's got some serious history.
Yeah.
But for those of us who might not be familiar with, let's say, the nuances of the Eroge genre, which I'm guessing is most people, what makes Rance 01 stand out, even with its more mature themes?
Strategy. It reels you in with the whole dungeon crawl battle scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, bam, they hit you with this chips and cards system, and it basically controls everything.
Okay.
Think of it this way. You get to decide, do I use this healing potion now or save it just in case things get really hairy later on? And then, just to spice things up, you might need to sacrifice an item slot for something called Greenderware.
Greenderware, what in the...
Trust me, you'll want it to avoid some truly nasty status effects. And that's when you realize, this game, it's deep, man. Strategically deep.
Hold on, so are you saying it's like Oregon Trail, but with, less dysentery and a lot more? Well, you get the picture.
There you go. Calculated risks, that's the name of the game, both on and off the battlefield.
All right, walk me through this then. Let's say I'm in a dungeon, inventory's almost full, and I stumble across that classic treasure chest scenario. What kind of curveball does Rance 01 throw my way?
Okay, picture this. You're using this map excerpt we have, right? Lieza's outskirts area. You see that treasure chest kind of tucked behind those trees?
Yeah.
Classic, right? Well, it could be a super powerful weapon just sitting there, or it's a trap. Maybe an earworm trap. You'll be battling more than goblins if you fall for that one.
Oof. Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
And let's not forget about the dreaded bad food diarrhea trap. Suddenly that asteroid buster you've been hoarding doesn't seem so silly, huh?
Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. It's like the game knows you're going to go for it, even though there's a good chance you'll end up regretting it 5 minutes later. And speaking of messing with players, what are with those question marks all over the map?
Ah, those. That's Rance 01, keeping you on your toes. Let's say you find a boiled croissant at like .1 during one run. Next time you swing by, could be an epitaph shield. Risk reward, my friend, always keeps you guessing, keeps you adapting.
Brilliant. The devs were like, oh, you think you're going to memorize spawn locations? Not so fast. But with all this talk of traps and item management, it seems kind of serious. Where's the, how do I put this? Where's the Rance element come into all of this?
Well, for starters, this is a game where you might run into enemies called, get this, gal monsters. And let's just say they require a particular strategy to defeat.
Right.
And a very particular strategy. I think we'll leave it at that. So we've got these mechanics, these encounters, but what about the characters themselves? Like, I glanced at some of those bios, and wow, there's something else.
Right.
We've got So Plain, who's, and I quote, bad at sex. And I'm just going to assume we're talking about in-game stats here.
Yeah, you kind of have to with this one.
And then there's Patty the Summer, who, get this, she runs a shop, and it sells both adventuring gear and shaved ice.
Shaved ice. What's up with that?
See, that's Rance 01 for you, leaning hard into the comedic side. See those descriptions, and you're like, no way, they're messing with me.
Totally.
But then you look closer, and there's actually some surprising depth hidden beneath all the, well, Rance-ness of it all.
Like with Millie Linkle, right? The weapon shop girl. She's always getting attacked. It's in her bio.
Right. Good at sleeping, bad at staying awake.
Which, in a game where danger's looking around every corner, that's actually a pretty useful skill.
It is. It's like the game is in on the joke, you know?
Yeah.
It's self-aware, but it still delivers these strangely well-developed characters.
Okay, so this brings us to the mastermind behind all of this. Kata. His bio, man, it's a wild ride. Early career struggles, battling for the industry to accept these kinds of games, a love for croquettes. Where do we even start?
You got to start with the fact that Tada almost didn't become a game developer. This is the guy behind a series that spanned decades, and he doubted himself.
Whoa, seriously.
He thought he wasn't good enough.
That's kind of humbling, actually. But it makes sense, though, right? I mean,
Right.
we know how much he valued community, working together, all of that.
Exactly. And this is where we get to the Sawari incident of '91.
Okay, hit me with it.
Imagine this. A copy of An erotic game, Saori, is found, and it's in the hands of a minor. Suddenly the whole industry is in the hot seat. The future of games like Rance 1 hanging by a thread.
Whoa, high stakes. So what did Tata do? He didn't just sit there and take it, did he?
No way.
Yeah.
Taddy, he jumps in, rallies other developers. They had to do something, right? So they pushed for self-regulation. They knew that to protect these games, they had to prove they were committed to doing things the right way.
So did he, like, write an angry letter, stage a protest? What'd he do?
He went straight to the source. Tada ends up speaking in front of the Japan Personal Computer Software Association, the JPSA, arguing passionately for their right to create these games. Responsibly, of course.
Wow. That takes some serious guts.
And keep in mind, he's only 25 at this time, the youngest person in the room, by far.
Man, talk about making an entrance. But, you know, it shows you how far ahead he was thinking. He wasn't just fighting for his own game. He was fighting for the entire genre.
Exactly, and it paid off. A year later, guess what? He's invited to be a founding member of the Ethics Organization of Computer Software, the EOCS. And they set the standards, the practices that shaped the entire Eroge industry for years to come.
So this guy goes from making a quirky RPG with some, let's say, adult themes, to being one of the founding fathers of ethical game development in Japan.
That's to the Afriyak.
That's a hell of a legacy.
Right, and it all comes back to Rance 1.
Yeah.
The game wasn't just him being creative. It represented something. You know, it reflected his values. The humor, the strategy, even the mature content. It was all part of his vision.
But he wasn't afraid to experiment, right? Even if it meant stumbling a bit along the way.
Oh, absolutely. After Rance 1 blew up, Kata actually struggled to figure out where to go next with the sequels.
Really?
He had all these ideas, but the tech wasn't quite there yet. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe even his confidence needed a boost.
So what happened? How do you go from struggling to find your footing to creating a series that's still going strong today?
He never gave up, that's how. He kept tinkering, kept experimenting, and this is key. He listened to the fans. He even went so far as to create this distribution-free declaration thing. Basically, people can share Ellisoft's older games for free.
Wait, what? For free?
Free, as long as they follow a few rules, of course.
So it's kind of like he was saying, hey, if you dig it, share it. Let's build something together.
Exactly. Community was everything to him. And that brings us right back to Rance 1. This game, with all its quirks, and let's be real, it's definitely not for kids content, it somehow grabbed people's attention and just wouldn't let go, even decades later. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. There's so much to unpack here. Strategic gameplay, totally off-the-wall characters, and this creator who's part visionary, part ethical game dev champion. How would you sum it all up for someone who's just now hearing about Rance 1 for the very first time? What's the key takeaway?
Games aren't just games, you know? They can be art, social commentary, even a window into the minds of the people who create them. That's what I think is so cool. Rance 1 might not be everyone's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. But it shows you just how far a game can push boundaries, how it can completely flip expectations, and still find an audience all these years later. It's a wild ride, that's for sure.
Definitely a wild ride. It proves that sometimes the games you'd least expect can be the ones that really grab you. So to everyone listening, if you're feeling adventurous, maybe even a little daring,
maybe it's time to give Rance 1 a shot. I mean, with all that strategic depth, the unforgettable, if sometimes strange characters, and its crazy place in gaming history, what have you got to lose?
exploring the world of Rance 1, even for a little bit, it might just spark your own creative journey. Thanks for taking the plunge with us.